Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show, Thursday, February 19th, 2026. I'm Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter, Kyle Dvorchak. We're joined by many news items. We're joined by a mock draft that Kyle released last week. Denny's been grinding blurbs, Rivers McCown grinding blurbs, just two amongst many on our website. Denny's finding stuff like Brian Daboll saying Cam Ward was a big factor in taking the Titans OC job. This actually might have been Kyle that posted that one.
Yeah.
I think Denny found this one. The Alec Lewis believes Mac Jones, quote, checks more boxes for the Vikings than any other available quarterback. And so Denny's already getting to the point of the offseason, like, Mac Jones saves the Vikings. Who says no?
Listen, I appreciate you giving me a credit for all these blurbs. I've done none of these.
All right. So we're gonna talk Daboll with Cam Ward, though. We're gonna talk the Vikings maybe with Mac Jones. We're going to talk about the Falcons probably without Tyler Allgeier. Don't tell me Denny didn't write that one.
I didn't.
Tears in his beers on that one.
I'll shout out Nick Bottaford probably wrote the Mac Jones one. I think he's the one on right now. So there
Tears in Denny's, Allgeier's beers. Leaving the Falcons never been more irrelevant. I'm trying to rebound with Isaiah Likely, who's heading to free agency. No progress in the Ravens' attempts to sign him. I'll ask you guys how you think he might pan out. Justin Fields, if we have time. Then we're going to ask Kyle about his mock draft. Who is the wide receiver one? What's the over-under for first-round receivers? Is Jeremiyah Love, St. Louis is Jeremiyah Love, for sure in the top 10? Is there a second first-round quarterback? Things of that nature. But first, debate always raging in the sports space. Tanking has kind of become one of the eternal debates. Everyone agrees this year it's worse than ever in the NBA. Everyone's really fed up with it, except for one man, former Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, who says actually tanking is good.
Yeah.
And thank God Denny made that sound, because Denny, to me, it sounds like the kind of thing you would typically agree with. Yeah, he's right. He said nothing wrong.
No, I mean,
teams should try to lose. It absolutely makes sense that we have a professional competition, hundreds of millions of dollars in fan interest online. Teams should not be trying to win. It makes perfect sense to me.
There was a time when I would have said, yeah, absolutely. They should follow the analytics and they should lose. Because the analytics always says you should lose. But no. In my old age, I say that's not right. And that violates like the basic tenets of why you play a game.
Yes.
And Mark Cuban, honestly, when he says that, he sounds like a professional contrarian blogger.
Yes.
Who exists to get to like encourage rage bait online. Like that's what he sounds like. And he should be better than that, I think.
I actually, amen to everything you just said. He really should be someone who was one of the stewards, one of the guardians of the game, one of the faces of the NBA for over 20 years should not be saying things like actually tanking is good.
No.
And Kyle, what I think frequently gets lost in the debate in this discourse is that no one would argue that all four of the major North American sports and their current collective bargaining agreements incentivize tanking. So like it is rational to tank under the agreements as is. I think what we're all arguing is that anything that incentivizes losing in any form, it just violates the other very basic. Like why would these leagues even exist? Like what is even the point? And it's just stunning. I feel like that anyone would be okay with tanking. Whatever. If you want to argue it's rational under the current CBA, you are correct. But then the follow-up argument needs to be, however, we need to legislate it out of our games.
Yeah. So how would you do that?
that was my question too.
There is one pretty easy way to do it that's not like doesn't involve like rookie free agency, which of course should probably be the thing, or like crazier lotteries. Like why not just make it a rolling 30-year rotation? Like the Boston Celtics have the number one pick this year. Then the next year it's the New York Knicks, and just make it a 30-year rotation and just take all of it. Like it's a very imperfect solution, but we're in a very imperfect.
This is a very like European, like league tables kind of solution that I'd be fine with. I mean, I agree that it's like a true shame that halfway through the year in almost every North American sport, there are 10 to like 30% of the league actively wants to lose. I do think that like,
it's like destroying sport as we know it.
It's
like a virus that's slowly taking hold and becoming more and more normalized. And like when you have fan bases like actually want to lose, like it's like actually psychotic.
The only reason that sports makes sense as part of one's life is because it has meaning. And when you strip out the meaning, it's nothing, right? It's just guys playing a sport where no one really cares who wins, and you just go about it that way, and that's totally meaningless. And I hate that that's become like accepted, like acceptable in the culture. Like that's fine. You should do that. That's good for you. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that.
Well, it's like efficiency culture being taken to its true lowest common denominator.
Right. Oh
like,
man, is it ever
the insidiousness of efficiency culture? And like it's like the true bottom dollar of efficiency culture. Like, actually, it's smart to lose. You are really stupid for not thinking that. This is actually a great way to design a sport, if you ask me. Kyle, you had a thought there.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you guys would think of the different types of systems that even incentivize winning among like non-playoff teams. Is usually how it works. Something like that. Winning among non-playoff teams. Fantasy does this all the time anyway in different leagues. Like the highest win percentage or total wins team who doesn't make the playoffs gets the first overall pick, which basically forces teams to not only keep competing and not tanking, but like actively try hard.
Well, there's always problem on the fringes then though, Kyle, because then like instead of being the 10 seed, it'd be even more epic is missing the playoffs and getting the number 1 pick. And so I've always thought maybe it should just be pots, like 3 pots of 10 teams. Like the 10 worst teams are in the pot for 1 to 10, then vice versa, et cetera, et cetera. Then the problem, of course, then teams tanking to get in that pot or whatever. Yeah. I think people would be far less concerned about it though. Like, I don't think it would be franchises would be orienting their entire strategy around, we got to get in the 1 through 10 pot or we're totally screwed as a franchise.
You got it. Well, you got to disincentivize.
Disincentivize.
You got to disincentivize it, or they'll just keep doing it. I'm in Maryland, so the Washington Wizards is our home team. They've been completely irrelevant for a quarter century. No one talks about them. No one cares about them. You never hear about them. They keep getting high draft picks and that's not working. So maybe tanking is a little overrated. I mean, the Wizards.
It is. That's a great point, is that it doesn't even work half the time. And I just hate everything about the way modern sports are run right now. We're just so much like salary caps. Like, I understand why some people like salary caps and think like, oh, we're screwed without salary caps. Like, see what the Dodgers can spend compared to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But when leagues become about salary caps, it's no longer about acquiring and accruing talent. It's about managing money. And this is a competition to accumulate talent and win championships. It's not the manage money competition. And like, why has sports become about basically sitting on real estate holdings instead of trying to win? This should be about rich people fighting each other to win. Not rich people like, dude, I'm going to have the sickest entertainment district around my stadium, bro. Like, you don't even know how sick this entertainment district's going to be in Pittsburgh, PA.
I know.
Like, that's what it is now, sitting on real estate and finding like alternate income sources instead of just winning. Just try to win.
I was going to say, genuinely, the biggest arc of the Browns of the past like 3 or 4 years has been where their new stadium's going to be. Because I think it's going to be in the suburbs, if I remember correctly.
It's going to have the sickest entertainment district. You don't even know, bro.
I mean, that truly is like the most notable change for the team, because obviously they've sucked for ever since like Baker Mayfield's second last year. So to me, like one of the biggest talking points, especially in the offseason amongst my like Browns friends, is like they're moving the stadium from downtown or whatever, as opposed, because like you said, it is like it's really changed the dynamic of how ownership views their team.
Yes, and a truly horrific development. The Chicago Bears appear to be moving to northern Indiana, which truly never. I don't know if I've ever seen anything more offensive than that. Chicago Bears should be playing in Chicago, Illinois. We should be talking about actual football topics. So the Titans, they got the number 1 pick the hard way in 2024. They were just bad. They didn't plan to be that bad. They fired Mike Vrabel for some reason. They thought it would work. Did not come close to working. So they got the number 1 overall pick last spring, Denny. They selected Cam Ward. He was okay as a rookie. Actually, no, he was bad. Kevin Clark.
Terrible.
He was first. You've betrayed Kevin. You've betrayed Cam. But Brian Daboll likes Cam Ward. Brian Daboll said Cam Ward is a big factor in taking this Titans OC job. A lot of times, like, wow, spoiler alert, the new OC is going to talk up the quarterback he has to call plays for. I believe it a little more in this instance because Brian Daboll probably could have done better than the Titans job. I think he kind of had his pick of play calling jobs, maybe less than I thought, but he had more choices than just the Titans, I'm assuming, Denny. Do you believe him when he says Cam Ward is a big factor? How might this marriage work if Brian Daboll ends up in Tennessee?
I know.
Excuse me. You know what I mean? He's in Tennessee.
Yes, he's already there.
He's, very much already there.
If he stays there through Halloween, I think I think it might work. Look, he has some experience with getting the most out of a super raw, kind of underdeveloped quarterback in Josh Allen. Maybe the Zoomers don't remember when Josh Allen was like bad, like actually bad. Cam Ward was actually bad last year. There's just no way around it, guys. Like I was in last summer, right? And because I saw like the highlight throws and I thought that was cool. And I who I ignored, and I shouldn't have ignored him. I'm sorry, Zach Kruger, our own Zach Kruger. But Zach told me, he said, look, this guy's pressure to sack ratio is off the friggin' charts. Like nobody goes into the league with that ratio and survives. And he was right. Last year, over 9% of his pressures led to sacks. That can't happen. You can't go forward like that. He also didn't move except for the one game against Seattle where I think he rushed 7 times. And then the coaches were so happy about that. And they said, well, we got to get more of that. He averaged 2.5 rushes per game. He only scrambled on 4% of his dropbacks. That was one of the lowest rates in the league. So there's a lot to do.
That's the first thing Brian Daboll's going to do, clearly, by the way, is have him run more.
I mean, you would think so. But the thing is, though, he's not fast, right? He's
fast enough.
Effectively mobile enough, right?
He's much more noble than he's noble. Much more mobile than he operated as last year.
I feel like in hindsight that Cam Ward just totally scammed his way into the number 1 pick.
Stop it.
Last year.
He did not. He could be like a Roethlisberger type runner. People forget, Roethlisberger was a somewhat effective scrambler.
I don't know
for the whole first half of his entire career. I mean, Kyle, I cannot believe Denny. This is like a classic Denny 180. Like I'm the biggest Cam Ward fan on earth. Then the spreadsheet tells me he's bad for 2 weeks. I've never been
2 weeks.
I've never been. I'm saying that's how quickly you turned on him last year.
I was truly a Cam Ward centrist on this show because he was a fine number 1. He was clearly the right number 1 overall pick. I get that Jackson Dart is going to end up outperforming, has already outperformed him as a rookie. So is Tyler Shuck. I was totally on board with taking him number 1, but he's got some Mahomes in him comps. I mean, that stuff was all absurd. And I do think the red flag.
He does have some Mahomes in him, but
so does Zach Wilson. It's meaningless. Who cares?
Yeah, true. That's a good counterpoint. Yes.
Totally. He does. He even as a rookie had 3 or 4 throws that were awesome. They were mind-bendingly good. But it's just truly, I just don't care too much about the 4 highlight reel throws if your down-to-down consistency and accuracy and ability to avoid negative plays and make positive plays is really, really poor. And he was not a bad prospect by any means, but I think he was at best a very volatile prospect. He was a 5-year quarterback who played 1 season at the Power 5 level, Power 4, I think by the time he was at Miami. And he was even on tape, he was doing he's somewhere between Zach Wilson and Mahomes, takes a lot of sacks, makes a lot of big plays. So it's not surprising to me the guy was extremely high variance, hit on the downside of that. That's just what happens when you have a wide range of outcomes. So I think he can turn it around. But to Denny's point, this was a really bad rookie season from a player who had really bad player in his range of outcomes. So I'm going to be cautious about him heading into a second season. From a fantasy perspective, though, I checked the early DraftKings Best Ball ADP. He's basically the last quarterback being drafted who's a good bet to start all 17 games. He's not a lock to start all 17. If he just truly bottoms out, maybe he doesn't. But he's a good bet to do so. And he is the single last quarterback you can say that about by ADP. So I say all this where I'm he had a lot of risk as a prospect. He really just hit all the risk as a rookie, and I'll probably still be at least drafting him a little bit in the second year.
Two things real quick. With regards to the point that Cam Ward only had 1 good year at a Power 4 school, that's just become more and more common with journeyman college quarterbacks transferring around, or they enroll at Georgia or Clemson, and they're I'm not really sure why this guy went to Georgia. They have 2 5-star quarterbacks ahead of him, and then they don't play, and then they leave, of course, and they only end up with basically 1 year on their resume. I just think that's gonna be something we're gonna have to get more comfortable with. But Denny, to your point about pressure to sack ratio, the number 1 pick right before Cam Ward had this exact problem his rookie season in 2024, Caleb Williams, and then somehow immediately basically fixed all that in 2025. Do we maybe overrate? Because I think we all believe when a guy's a sack taker, it's very hard to take that out of his game. And then somehow in 1 year they did that for Caleb Williams in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly great fit, Brian Daboll, in that regard, because he does not care about his quarterbacks getting hit.
Not at all.
But do we maybe like overrate? Like, are we taking it a little too far, thinking like sacks are basically like the original sin of like bad quarterbacks, and like once you have it, you can't get rid of it?
Well, very few can overcome it. I think that's the issue. Like Joe Burrow has always been a sack taker. Like Joe Burrow is like the the exception to the rule of this pressure to sack thing. He was bad in college on that level. He came into the league, taking sacks all the time, hurt all the time. But when he's playing, he's pretty good. So he's the exception. I just don't think you can say, okay, well, Cam Ward can do that. With Caleb, it's a good point. He
went from 68 sacks to 24.
My first thought is this. They brought in Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson immediately went out with the front office and signed, I believe, 3 new offensive linemen, right? Like broke the bank. Like we are bulking up this offensive line. We did not have a good pass protecting unit. And he said, Caleb, I am the quarterback. Okay. You are simply me on the field. You're going to do what I tell you to do. You're going to drop back 3 steps and you're going to throw it. None of this other stuff. Now I know he still did that stuff, but I think that combination of Ben Johnson's system plus the offensive line improvements, I think that led to the improvement with the sacks. With Cam Ward, man, I don't know. I'm just skeptical he can overcome it.
In general, skepticism is warranted in these situations, but I think Caleb showed it is not as impossible as we maybe, because
right.
I would have thought it was impossible for Caleb Williams to take 44 fewer sacks. Like, that's always going to be an outlier outcome. But I just wouldn't be surprised if Cam Ward made greater progress in a quicker amount of time than we maybe expect on this front. Either if he doesn't, he'll be out of the league in 2 years. So it's going to tell the story of his career. Does it tell the story of the Vikings franchise, guys, that the Athletic is now like, just as long as the Vikings get Mac Jones, everything will be fine? Like they got it. They're so dialed on Mac Jones. Denny said, the Athletic's Alec Lewis believes Mac Jones checks more boxes for what the Vikings are looking for than any other potentially available quarterbacks. We have no idea if the 49ers are actually amenable to trading Mac Jones. It's going to take like a legit offer. It might take like a 2nd or 3rd round pick, because their view is like Brock Purdy gets hurt a lot. Why would I ever give up the guy who was just great in our system after we already gave up Sam Darnold,
right?
For nothing. Like, I don't think it's just like written in stone that the 49ers are going to trade Mac Jones. But do you agree with Alec Lewis's assessment that the only thing holding back this Vikings team is a distinct lack of Mac Jones?
It's a lack of a viable starting quarterback. Kevin O'Connell can do a lot with a little. Like we've seen that. The only
Mullins, Josh Dobbs,
right, and others, who have come in for a game or two here or there. And with Darnold, I mean, he made Darnold cook for that one season. Obviously, they should have kept him. They didn't, and now everybody got fired. But they need a viable starting quarterback, and JJ McCarthy is probably
not happening.
It.
So
now listen, I mulled what you said on Tuesday's podcast, Pat, about McCarthy might be like a cut candidate, or like they might just like ship him off in
New
a trade.
Anthony Richardson just dropped.
Right.
Well, I was going to say Josh Rosen was the comp that came to mind because he actually got traded in the same way that you replace him and it's just what's the point of having this lottery ticket, even a $1 scratcher on your roster?
and I actually buy that more after seeing the report from Alec Lewis, I believe, saying that the Vikings had to strip out almost all of the middle of the field, the passing concepts last year.
That was the most, it's never been more over a report I've ever heard in my life.
Because McCarthy couldn't handle it.
He said too, like to improve his sight lines or something. Like he is not a huge guy. He's not small though.
Well, I mean, that basically says that like, whoops, like we drafted a guy who was never asked to do anything in college. And we thought that we could make him do cool stuff in the pros, and he can't. So I actually think that there's a decent chance that he's not on the roster.
I really do. I mean, it's not the most likely outcome. Teams really don't like to admit mistakes to that degree, and he is young enough. Like whatever, maybe the light will just turn on. But to me, it's just kind of like gravity applying in the NFL. Because after our show on Tuesday too, I was thinking man, am I crazy? Because like the whole time JJ McCarthy was in college, I'm like, this guy is not an NFL prospect. Like he's just not. Like, he's similar like Brady Cook for me. My guy Brady Cook. Like when I saw JJ McCarthy I did not think future NFL quarterback. And then when the pre-draft process started, I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't remember having like this big of a disconnect ever, but like, I genuinely try to stay humble in the situations. Like, I don't know what teams, like what the four most truly important traits are. I know it's not their sports reference page and their college stats. So I'm like, I guess I just don't know, but it turns out I just did know. He's not an NFL quarterback. Anything to add?
You were right. You said nothing wrong.
Yeah, I said nothing wrong, Kyle. Do you have anything to say right on Mac Jones and the Vikings?
Yeah, as far as like it relates to JJ McCarthy, I don't think there's a swing big enough they can make that would warrant getting rid of McCarthy. I mean, he's obviously not going to be the starter, but the reason we saw like Josh Rosen get moved on from was because they drafted Kyler Murray with the number 1 overall pick. I do think they're probably just forced to hold on to McCarthy as a developmental backup in the way that like your 5th round pick is developmental backup. That's now the expectation for him. Maybe he can jump into a backup role. Maybe someday he becomes a starter. But right now, that's all he is. It's just a project for the like assistant QB's coach to work with in practice. Because I do think if it isn't Mac Jones, like it could be. They're also a Malik Willis type landing spot. There may be a Kyler Murray trade landing spot. It's clear that there will be a starter to replace JJ McCarthy. But I don't think there is a single starter big enough to say like we've solved quarterback. Mac Jones doesn't functionally solve quarterback for them. Like Sam Darnold is probably better than Mac Jones, and they won 0 playoff games. It was 1 good season. So I don't think Mac Jones immediately makes them an elite team. It just takes them from what they were last year, was a botched quarterback situation away from making the playoffs to back in the playoffs, I'd imagine.
There's more analogs than there should be for JJ McCarthy. Another one is Trey Lance, who the 49ers moved on from after 8 games in 2 years. A lot of that had to do with injury, of course, but a lot of it's had to do with injury of JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot keep going with a guy like that. I mean, like the Colts did the right thing by pulling the plug on Anthony Richardson.
It's a franchise killer in that, like, it's about quarterback is the most important position. It's true. And you need to do everything you can to develop quarterback. But if the quarterback is not developing, you got 52 other guys in the team. Like, I can't waste my time.
I know.
Like,
well, think of Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you got to be accountable to the 52 other players in the team. And if it's wasting their time, the whole thing just like collapses and falls apart. And
I mean, we knew something was wrong when the on the field Mike picked up JJ McCarthy begging Justin Jefferson to believe in him
in the first game. That was week 1. He was saying, "Don't give up on me, bro.
Don't give up on me."
It was
in
week
the
1.
First game. It actually made me wonder: had these guys met before that game? Like, had they ever talked? I feel like probably they had not.
No. And so McCarthy, I just don't see any. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. I 0.0 chance he's starting week 1. I don't know about on the roster. 0.0 chance he's starting week 1. Speaking of on the roster, Denny's guy in Atlanta, Tyler Allgeier, is walking. Denny's going to say it's because he's so good. The Falcons can't afford him as a backup. But the Athletics, Josh Kendall believes it's hard to imagine the Falcons will be able to bring back Tyler Allgeier, Kyle Dvorchak. I just set him up as Kyle's guy, or as Denny's guy.
Yeah,
I'm going to Denny first. So we're going to go Kyle first. Will Tyler Allgeier get a starting job in free agency? Or is that going to be too much to ask? It was looking like kind of a loaded, we say this every year, loaded running back free agent class, and never actually is.
No.
But will Tyler Allgeier come out of this with a starting job?
Permission to use lethal force? He's not that good. He could be a starter, right? But last year, and he wasn't asked to be a fun running back. He was asked to do the dirty work. But he was 40th in PFF rushing grade, 37th in yards after contact per carry, 44th, really abysmal mark in breakaway rate. He's like a middle of the road success guy, which he's supposed to be. You ask for 3, you get 3. You ask for 4, you're still getting 3. But that's in theory, when that's good, that's a high success rate player. He wasn't a bad success rate player, but he's right around like 20th out of 40 something qualified running backs. He's a negative rush yards over expected player.
Keep going.
I
Denny's
don't think he's terrible.
Here. Denny has to answer these charges.
He's just a jag. He's just a guy. And he's a guy who can probably handle a big workload, right? That's maybe the calling card for him, is that there are a lot of guys who are not that good, and you also don't trust them to get 20 carries. I do think Tyler Allgeier could probably handle a pretty big workload, especially between the tackles. But I just don't know what he actually brings to the table. He strikes me as very much does maybe get a starting contract in free agency, and I'm just fading him the entire way because he just wasn't that good last year.
Denny, some pretty serious charges are being levied against you. Tyler Allgeier turns 26. Do you disagree with Kyle, or? Yeah, I mean, all kidding aside, are you kind of giving up on Tyler Allgeier?
Is it hard to defend my guy after his 2025 season, it is. Was he banged up? Possibly. We don't know. That's my go-to now. By the way,
to his credit and maybe his detriment,
injury report.
Let's say to his credit and maybe his detriment, Tyler Algier never misses time. He's missed one game in his career.
Yeah. So he had a career low rushing success rate last year, 48%. Career low yards per attempt at 3.6. Career low yards per game. I mean, it's basically like kind of why they just let Bijan Robinson take over at the end. Like this guy's doing nothing for us. So let's just go with the guy who's actually good. Do I think Allgeier could be a starting running back in a league that is trending pretty hard toward establishing, running, being safe, being defensive, leaning on the run? Yes, I do. Would he be touchdown? Would his upside be based entirely on getting a bunch of carries inside the 5-yard line? It would. But I've seen worse fantasy profiles than that. I've been seeing than the guy who's just going to get every inside the 5 carry, who's going to see some targets. He doesn't need to be hyper efficient if he's going to be a starter. Now, is he, assured to be a starter? No, absolutely not. But I'm keeping my eye on him. You'd be shocked to know this.
It's just a fantasy profile really without a ceiling. He's never caught 20 passes. There's just no way he's being every down back. I think we know that.
He didn't really run routes.
No.
Why would that be?
The kind of teams that are going to sign him.
I don't know. You asked the Falcons. I kept telling them, let the guy run some routes.
To put a bow in this, Kyle, the odds that Tyler Algier is a top 24 fantasy running back in 2026.
15%, maybe even less.
Yeah,
10 or 15.
I get just yes or no. I'll say he won't be a top 24 back. What do you say, Denny?
I mean, just to mix it up, it's February, and I'm feeling, as the kids would say, spicy. Yeah, top 24 easily. I just say
this is the kind of profile that flops constantly in free agency. Like a 26-year-old power back who, for the entirety of his rookie contract, was never a starter. Like we know it's because Bijan Robinson came in.
Come on.
But then, they drafted a lottery pick running back when they had Tyler Algier on the roster after a solid rookie year. It just this is the kind of profile that flops every year in free agency.
You're right. It's the Alexander Madison profile.
Yeah, I honestly was trying to avoid saying new Alexander Madison. Just drop.
That's it. Yeah.
But,
I mean, and I'm not going to be completely blind to that. Like as we go into the season, I'm not gonna do a bit like where it depends on where he lands. It just depends on where he lands. Is he going to be like a season changer, like a league winner? Of course not. But the point about like, why did they draft Bijan Robinson if they had Algier? It's a good question. I mean, it's a valid question. And the answer is because the Falcons are not a good franchise.
Adam asks, what if he's the power back with the Broncos? That would be a high-end outcome for Tyler Algier.
That would be.
Yeah. He'd be a good fit there. That'd be good for him.
He actually would be a good – that's like – he needs to be working the phones in that one.
Yeah, man.
Denver,
man. RJ Harvey, you better learn to speak sideline.
Yeah, of course, it's never been more over. I mean, we're not even going to talk about RJ Harvey. It's never, ever been more over. I'm sure we'll talk about him incessantly. We're going to talk about a lot more when we come back right after this. It's our Winter Olympics you'll never forget from beautiful northern Italy. Watch the world's biggest stars on the biggest stage in prime time, only on NBC and streaming on Peacock. Watching primetime Thursday night, see if Jordan Stolz goes 3 for 3 on golds. I already know the answer. You want to check it and find out? I'm having pre-withdrawals from the Olympics going away, by the way. They become a cornerstone part of my life during the fortnight.
Wow.
But keep watching the final 4 days of the Winter Games in Italy. So Denny was one of Tyler Algier's cope guys. One of my biggest cope guys ever in recent memory has been Isaiah Likely. Like, you don't understand. It was just because he was hurt. Mark Andrews isn't good. John Harbaugh said he wanted an all-pro season. They don't just say that about some nobody. Right? They don't just say that about some nobody. I had Isaiah Likely on seriously every team. Sure. And the final pick or two. But still, it's very costly. Do we still like the profile, Kyle Dvorchak, on Isaiah Likely in the Athletics? I can't. How do you say this guy's name, man?
Jeff Zrebeck.
Zrebeck. Been reading his name for 20 years. Never had to say it. He reports the Ravens have made, quote, no progress in their efforts to extend Isaiah Likely. For reasons unknown, they extended Mark Andrews last season. If Isaiah Likely gets out of Baltimore, can we have high expectations he becomes a tight end one, Kyle? Or because, tight end is a position of nonlinear development. He's had flashes. It's very common for someone to escape their rookie contract team, land in free agency, and become a tight end one. Do you think Isaiah Likely fits that profile, or am I still coping?
You're still coping a little bit, especially. Well, I had my response to your question, which was written. This guy's a guaranteed tight end one, right? That was how the question was written. So I was ready to rain on that parade.
Yeah, didn't read it that way. Yeah.
You didn't read it that way. You read it much more reasonably because I was going to rain. It was thunderstorms were called for. He was tight end 30 in yards per route run this last year, targeted on a pathetic 14% of his routes.
Yeah, not his fault.
It definitely wasn't all his fault. He was very clear. I mean, he didn't begin the season playing football, and I don't know if at any point he ever got healthy. And it was a season in which he didn't play with Lamar Jackson for some games and didn't play with healthy Lamar Jackson for a bunch of other games. So there are a lot of, I don't want to say like excuses because that sounds derogatory, a lot of very reasonable excuses to be made for him. He was super efficient in the previous season. But responding to the question I was written, is he a guaranteed tight end one? Actually, I would put it at like 20 to 25% odds of tight end one. He's a career part-time player coming off of a drastic season, and all of his best years have come with like MVP caliber quarterback play in which he didn't run all the routes. There are a lot of pitfalls to that where maybe the next team he signs with also only views him as a part-time player, where he's really efficient again with that next team, but he just can't crack the tight end one ranks because he doesn't get all the routes. Maybe the next team tries to scale up his routes. Turns out he just can't do that kind of stuff. Maybe he was somewhat of a product of multiple MVP caliber seasons of Lamar Jackson. All these things can be true. And only like 1 to 1.5 of them need to come to fruition for him to not be a tight end one. So I would bet against him being a tight end one if you just gave me 50-50 odds. But I do think there's a real ceiling here because we know from past seasons that when things go well for him, he's so efficient and such a good playmaker.
Yeah, Denny, when Kyle was talking, the question was popping into my head. Like, is this a guy just stuck in like the Tyler Eifert, Mike Gesicki zone? Wow. Where like he's not a good blocker. Yeah, he's just he's out there to catch passes at the tight end position. And the no coaching staff will ever trust him in a role that would produce tight end one results, or is that too bearish after the other framing was too bullish?
I'm more bullish. In a league that is using more, tight ends, across the board.
5 tight end sets, 6 tight end sets. The quarterback is a tight end now.
11 tight ends that we're going to see that this year.
We are.
He could land on a team where he's running 75-80% of the routes. I think he could cook like that. Now, does the target per route run stuff from last year disturb me? It does. I actually was like, really, that's like a head scratcher because he was so good at commanding targets the previous 2 seasons.
It was usually when that happens, it's just because he got hurt in the preseason, which is definitely coping, excuse making.
Yeah.
A lot of times where it's like, how did this guy's efficiency just crater? Turns out the answer was never healthy.
Yeah.
But.
No, and he was in an ugly role last year, a run first team, only running 52% of the routes. Mark Andrews, they're just forcing him to be a thing. So if he lands somewhere else where he can get out there and run some routes, I think he's a good red zone weapon. I think he proved that with Lamar. I think it could be interesting. ESPN had a report that said Washington might be interested in a guy like Likely since Zach Ertz is probably done.
All right. Yeah.
I don't mind that. I mean, Debo's going to be gone. It would basically be him and McLaurin as the 2 main pass catchers. I like that.
Yeah, I'm actually coming around on that as you're talking.
That could work.
Off the top of your head, Kyle, how old is Tyler Eifert?
Tyler Eifert?
Yeah, Tyler Eifert.
Oh, 38.
Denny, how old's Tyler Eifert?
31.
Shut up. That kid, no. I got to be closer to what he is.
I was closer. He's 35.
Okay.
I was hoping someone was going to say 40.
No. I know because I remember he was a really young prospect.
I actually forgot that part, but
yeah.
I kind of, if you had asked me cold, how old is Tyler Eifert? I'm like,
52.
For me, I'm like, I don't know. I was in elementary school when he was playing football. So
Eifert played with Tommy Maddox and the Steelers.
Really? Yeah.
I bet you could find some pretty embarrassing things that I.
Oh my God!
I mean,
you ever? Oh my God!
He had a moment or two. You're allowed to
Really
victory
good.
lap that like 13 touchdown season he had.
I was like,
Good
you don't
point.
understand. This guy is better than Gronk.
Speaking of embarrassing takes, they've long existed on Justin Fields. The Athletics' Zach Rosenblatt believes he could be cut. Denny, are we cutting Justin Fields in dynasty leagues, or too early in the offseason to make that kind of decision? You never cut a dual threat until you absolutely have to. What do you say?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. The scramble rate remains high, one of the highest in the league last year. If he gets some spot starts, or he can't possibly start week 1. He's just not a starter in the league. So if it's like a deep dynasty format, I feel like
he's never been part of a good coaching staff. I will say that he's never been part of.
It's weird that only bad coaches take shots on him. We can't figure out why.
It is true.
I know, guys. Listen,
Mike Tomlin, elite coach. Arthur Smith, though, was the offensive coordinator. And Mike Tomlin, what's his weakness as a head coach? It was conservatism. And so, he benched him when he was actually playing well.
I know. Yeah. Dude, I that still bothers me to this day, because I feel like they had something going with Justin Fields.
I know.
And I guess because Russ was like, hey, by the way, my calf is okay now. I know. And they were like, okay, well, you're the starter. I mean, it doesn't work like that. Anyway, so I don't think he's going to be a starter ever again. His career might, kind of be winding down here.
Yeah.
It is amazing how a guy who was such a good passer in college can be such a bad passer in the pros. I mean, I know that happens. I get it. He's not the first one. But, I mean, the drop-off between accuracy, especially in the middle areas of the field, is just unbelievable.
It is, to the point where he, could not complete a pass on the Jets. That was interesting that it devolved to that degree, Kyle.
Yeah, if you need humbled when we're talking about, we'll be talking about Fernando Mendoza. I'll be talking a lot about the QB2 of this upcoming class that I don't think is particularly good. It humbles you a lot to look at the passing stats of Justin Fields and then just see him, like Denny said, he just can't complete a pass in the NFL sometimes. This game is not easy.
Yeah, I would just give him one final chance. Give him a shanty guy. Just give him a shanty guy.
To see it.
Give him a shanty guy once. Speaking of the draft, Kyle's going to give us the early initial lowdown on it when we come back right after this. Want a different way to consume the Winter Olympics after prime time on NBC and Peacock? 2 Guys, 5 Rings is the podcast for you. Bowen Yang from Saturday Night Live and Wicked and Matt Rogers from Palm Royale and No Good Deed have you covered. Their 15-episode podcast series takes you on a journey of Italian culture, what happens inside the Olympic Village in Milan Cortina, and much, much more. Download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I have to start listening after. I'm going to make the very unorthodox move of listening after the games, because I'm going to have Olympics withdrawal. I'll just listen to a podcast about the Olympics, even though I don't listen to podcasts.
I know. Yeah. What are you talking about? Podcasts?
By being on them every day. Every day. Kyle is going to be mock drafting every day of his life between now and late April. The folks demand mock drafts. Kyle has one. Connor Rogers has one. We're going to have you covered all spring in the run-up to the draft. Going to be a lot of amazing content on rotoworld.com. Kyle, I posted this before the show today because I was thinking about our show and how we're going to be talking about the draft. And I think the post is something along the lines of, I'm constantly amazed at my ability to watch so much college football and then know 5 of the elite prospects when the pre-draft process starts. Not ashamed to admit, I didn't even know who the wide receiver 1 was. You know who the wide receiver 1 is. You have Ohio State's, what a shock, a Buckeye.
Yeah.
Arnell Tate as the wide receiver 1. You have him going to New Orleans. Do you think is he like the consensus wide receiver 1? Why do you have him in the top 10? Why do you have him going to the Saints? How confident do you feel about this? Et cetera, so on and so forth. Tell us about Carnell Tate and his fit with the New Orleans Saints.
Well, you said I know who the wide receiver 1 is, and my whole spiel for this is you could pitch me on USC for Ty Lemon too. They're both truly.
I read it. I read the article, and I swear to God.
I think I have him. I'm working on the next mock draft already, so I don't remember every pick that I made because in my mind they've kind of already started to get rewritten a little bit. Believe I have Mekhi Lemon going to Miami. I have Miami taking a wide receiver.
You had him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers in mock draft 1.0.
Okay. He's going to rise from that. I can tell you he's going to rise from that because I don't have a strong preference, from a dynasty or from a real life NFL perspective, on who the wide receiver 1 is, Carnell Tate or Mekhi Lemon. I do think, to me, those are the clear top 2. And early on, I am slightly leaning towards takes. They have somewhat similar analytical profiles from the very high level view. 3-year power 4 players with a true breakout, like that 30% dominator in the third season. Lemon's efficiency is all meaningfully better than Tate. Tate also spent his entire career at Ohio State as the number 2, and not because he doesn't deserve a number 1 role, because he's almost certainly going to be playing college football with his entire time with a pair of top 5 wide receivers. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr., but then it will also almost certainly be
top 5 wide receivers.
Draft picks, top 5 draft pick wide receiver, because Harrison was 5, right?
Yeah, he was. He was in the top 5, and
yeah.
Denny, or Kyle, do you have any more thoughts on Carnell Tate there?
No, I mean, I think, like I said, I think he probably, like, the analytics, which really do also like him a lot, are never going to truly capture how difficult it is for him to earn targets when I think a Jamar Chase level prospect is playing alongside him and Jeremiyah Smith. Like,
yes, for sure.
And he's still got a 30% dominator, which is a really strong cut of your team's offense in his final season. I think that's hard to capture in the numbers on like what impact someone like Jeremiyah Smith has on his like counting stats, his efficiency, his market share stuff. But I'm gonna say it has an impact. And because he can still go toe to toe, even not considering that with Makai Lemon, I have like a slight tiebreaker towards Carnell Tate. And I do think the Saints are like a very clear one of the top teams that should prioritize wide receiver. Chris Olave is really good. He is also, I believe, only under contract for 1 more season. I assume they will just extend him. Doesn't really make a lot of sense for him to walk right now. Who are we talking about as this team's wide receiver too? Because they traded Rashid Shaheed and had no one to backfill him. I mean, we were making jokes in DFS about like Kevin Austin being this team's number 2 receiver. Like this is
it's Tipton season. Finally.
Oh, Mason Tipton. Like these should not be your wide receiver 2s. I think they are probably the most wide receiver needy team, at least wide receiver 2 needy team. But Chris Olave, as much as I like him, is also not nearly enough to carry an offense with a young quarterback. Young, relatively speaking.
Yeah, he's young in the NFL at least. And Olave, just final year of his deal, has the injury history. I was surprised when I saw you having the Saints take a receiver, but the reasons you laid out, it wouldn't be surprising at all. Like they have 0 depth. And Olave, I'm sure they love that he finally stayed healthy and had a great 2025, but the Saints are very wide receiver needy. Denny, do you know anything about Carnell Tate yet?
I had a question. I had a question about the tight end situation here. You number 19, you had the Panthers taking Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. He's a tight end. And my question is this: is he good? Because I did that thing where you filter yards per route run, and he ranks 12th in this class of tight ends. In this class, forget about the nation. So he seems like he's bad, but you have him going in the first round. Why?
Curious.
I agree with you, actually. Not that he's bad, right? I will defer a lot to what scouts are saying about him and to what draft capital has to say about him. And I think he's a really safe bet to go in the first round. First round tight ends are usually good tight ends. There will be a very clear disconnect between his analytical profile and where he goes in the draft. And when I'm mocking him to the Panthers there, if I'm the Panthers personally, if I'm their GM, if I drive back to Charlotte, I go to whatever building they run their corporate offices out of. I don't even know if it's in Charlotte, to be clear. I would not draft him with that pick. But when I'm mock drafting, I'm trying to get the most accurate answers. I'm going to almost certainly be a little lower on him in fantasy than the average drafter.
Well,
so I agree. He's just not awfully efficient. He's not like an elite dominator type player. He probably will crush the combine. And for tight ends, especially, that athleticism has more of an impact on their projection to playing than, running backs, wide receivers. But I just have to imagine that people are going to be more excited about him as a first round pick than the numbers, like you said, the efficiency or the market share stuff really has to say.
He's an impressive figure, I will say. He's gonna look good at the combine. We know that. I will say he's probably an upgrade on Tommy Tremble.
He's an
and is he an upgrade on Jatavian Sanders? That's the question.
Also easily, I'm afraid. I don't like Jatavian Sanders.
Hold on, time out. This guy is listed at H-back size. It's already over 6'3", 245. But he's gonna be 6'2" at the combine for sure. Like new H-back just dropped. Probably an upgrade on Tommy Tremble. Very stunning, actually. Kyle, what is the over/under on first round wide receivers? By the way, I hear it's a bad a quarterback class. I believe it's a bad running back class. What's the receiver class like in general? The over/under on first round wideouts.
I didn't find an actual book that has this. I set it at 4.5 with like -150 to the over, as in we're more likely not going to see a fifth wide receiver go. Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate are 3 not only first round locks, but like I said, I'm actually going to be moving Lemon up a pretty good bit. My next mock draft, I think they're top 15 to top 20 locks quite easily, with at least one going in the top 10. And then beyond that, there are a lot of other teams that need wide receivers at the back of the draft. Think a team like the Bills, like, please God, Buffalo, just take a wide receiver. Don't get fancy and trade back into the second round and take a wide receiver. Yeah. Just take a first round wide receiver. There are a few teams that do need to make that type of decision. And there are a lot of fringy first round kind of wide receivers. Denzel Boston from Washington is probably a decent bet, like 60 to 70% to go in the first round. Then a lot of like 20% plurality. One of these guys can make the jump in, not comping these players to Xavier Legette, but like the tweener could go late first, could go early second, like Keon Coleman too. Xavier Legette's, Keon Coleman's, where they have spotty profiles, but you can squint and you can see it. And I think one more of those players probably jumps in. I think it's Boston plus another one, 2 wide receiver needy teams at the end. So 4.5 leaning comfortably towards 5. And I think it's a deep-ish wide receiver class, like not a star-studded class, but kind of reminds me of what was the year with, like, I think weren't JSN, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, I believe, all in the same year. Like a lot of good wide receivers to pick in the 10s to 20s. And I think Lemon and Tate are actually reasonably good top 10 picks.
But you mentioned the Panthers corporate headquarters, by the way. They have a half-built one in South Carolina. They gave up on.
Is that our corporate headquarters? Because that was our like training facility that got abandoned for like tax issues.
Arcane tax reasons. Yeah. Sorry, Denny, you had a final thought on the receivers there.
Yeah, I like your pick of Concepcion to the Patriots out of Texas A&M. His metrics are pretty good, and I watched him a few times, and he has the juice, I believe. So that's a good spot for him, I think.
Oh, Denny knows a receiver.
I do. I know one receiver.
More than I know. I'll tell you who I do know, Kyle. So there's 3 kind of prospects I always do know. Did they play for Mizzou? Did they inflict pain on Mizzou? And third, are they from St. Louis? Jeremiyah Love is from St. Louis. Yep. You have mocked him at number 9 overall. I forget the team actually, but in the top 10.
City, a fun one that he'll never do. God is not that good. He would not let fun things like that happen.
So, do you think Jeremiyah Love is though for sure a top 10 pick in the way that Ashton Jeanty was for sure a top 10 pick last year?
No, not in the same way. Like Jeanty was probably more likely to go top 5 than Love is to go top 10. Not to say I don't think Love goes top 10, but I think it's very much up in the air because we know teams obviously don't, like, maybe Jeanty disproves this rule, but in general, running back picks have been trending downward. And more importantly, he's not the bulletproof type of prospect that Jeanty was. He's a very good prospect. But like there's levels to this game. And he was a really good committee back in college. And his backup, they were a committee back, Jadarian Price, is going to be a day 2 pick in this draft as well. So very understandable that he didn't see every single carry. But he also isn't the elite receiver that Jeanty showed in his second season, where he had like 600 some receiving yards, maybe it was 500 some receiving yards, over 3 yards per route run. You're looking at a peak yards per route run for him of like 1.8 and a career mark of 1.6 for Love. He's an awesome, efficient home run, can probably handle way more work than they gave him, but there are just small holes in his profile that put him comfortably behind someone like Jeanty, someone like Bijan Robinson. And I even think like we probably slept a little bit on Jahmyr Gibbs as a prospect of how good he was as a pass catcher. Obviously, like clearly we did because he's really good. But in hindsight, there's kind of some stuff that you can look at and say, I could see how we missed on this guy where I was not as excited about him as I should have been. Love's a really good player. I think he's much more in that like 8 to 15 range than he is in the 4 to 8 range, basically.
I do sort of doubt the Chiefs too. I think the Chiefs mentality is going to be, we have a premium pick. This is the last time we plan on having a premium pick in a while. Yep. We need to invest in a premium position. But man, Denny, if Jeremiyah Love went to the Chiefs, man, you would have like people like falling over themselves to get number 1 overall picks in dynasty leagues. Like, actually a running back for Patrick Mahomes.
Would it be a CEH situation?
No, not even close. No,
CH was just not a good prospect.
Denny, listen, Denny and I have met a lot of players, come across a lot of players at this point. CH is the only one that I could physically dominate. That's why that happened.
He's small, but okay. We say this like with hindsight. Everybody, oh yeah, CH wasn't going to work. But
CH was first guessed, actually, very famously.
I know. You first guessed him, and you were the only one on planet Earth who said a single negative word about the guy all summer. So I'm just wondering. I'm asking questions. I thought that was legal.
Yeah, it's still legal. I'm just asking the question, Kyle. Is there a second first-round quarterback? I don't think you had one in your mock, a second first-round quarterback.
Yeah, I did not. Alabama's Ty Simpson is.
All right, so there's no second first-round quarterback. Then we can move on.
That's how I feel. But I do think totally he's got to be at least. I didn't mock him in the first round, but he's probably right around a coin flip to go in the first round. Frankly, like it might be not liking him as a prospect to say that it's less than it's a 50-50. Because I do think a lot of mocks right now have him going in the first round. The Jets are like a very common landing spot. Their second pick is like 26, if I remember correctly, somewhere in the 20s. That's a spot people put him at a lot because obviously the Jets need quarterback, and he's kind of the consensus QB too. But Denny's like grimacing as I say this. And that's how I feel too. He was like outside the top 40 in EPA per drop back in his final college season. It was his only season as a starter. He was not highly graded by PFF as a deep thrower, nor did he do it a lot, nor is he really much of a running threat at all. I know on the NFL.com's profiles, Lance Zierlein comped him to Mac Jones, which like, if you think he's Mac Jones, I'm perfectly fine taking him in the first round, but he's really like, physically has some comps and play style has some comps to Mac Jones without a really good statistical profile, which Mac Jones threw like 40 touchdowns and like 3 or 4 interceptions in his final season at Bama, like 40-something 100 yards. Great statistical season. Ty Simpson also does not have that to back his sort of lackluster physical profile. So I do think he's a really reasonable bet to go in the first round. That is not based on my evaluation of him, though.
So Ty Simpson, by the way, you got me thinking. I was thinking about the JJ McCarthy disaster a lot this week for a variety of reasons. And I was just stunned. To me, how I thought JJ McCarthy, I thought he should have been like considered like a Stetson Bennett type prospect. And I don't know. So I was truthing JJ McCarthy the entire pre-draft process. But I wonder if like, even if that's kind of like hindsight analysis, or even I maybe didn't think he was that poor of a prospect, but I just don't know what. When you started talking about Ty Simpson, it for some reason reminded me of Stetson Bennett. I feel like some kind of mania came over the NFL. JJ McCarthy, and
it happened.
He should have been in the Stetson Bennett zone. Is my opinion on him. On a prospect.
It happened with Anthony Richardson too.
Yeah, Richardson. You really see how it happened.
You can dream. You can have fun.
Even Trey Lance, you can see how it happened.
Oh man, well Lance is probably the best example.
McCarthy, the whole time he was in college, everyone's like he's not good. Like that's I don't he was at a big time program. So like we saw him evaluated under, the closest you're going to get to NFL type. He was in an NFL style system and didn't do anything.
I know.
I mean, frankly, it was like a very early 2000s pick where like the kid wins football games and that's good enough for us. We're like, you don't see that too much anymore. Like the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, was not at all a winner in college. Okay. Yeah, and we've sort of lost a little bit, at least. Maybe we've lost that sort of that streak to our evaluation, probably for the better, as JJ McCarthy is evidence of. But it came back up. It feels like we did see so much about like he won the national championship. They wouldn't have gotten there without him. Like I don't know, maybe they would have.
So JJ McCarthy was a wild card pick. We'll get you out of here, Kyle. And the question: who's the team you think's fixing to do something crazier than hell in the draft? Like. Terry Fontenot's unemployed, so it's not going to be the Falcons anymore. Who's going to say it's Terry Fontenot time in this NFL draft? Who do you think's the team ready to go wild card mode in the first round of the NFL draft?
I mean, I don't think it'll be so wild card, but I mean, the 49ers, I'm going to like be really locking in for a skill position player. It feels like Shanahan doesn't need skill position players, right? He can just spin up any DeMarcus Robinson.
You might think I don't need skill. That's where you'd be wrong. You might think there's no possible way I'll take a skill player and immediately hate them again. You would also be wrong.
It would be so funny too if he ended up hating him. But like, man, I get that he can really spin up a DeMarcus Robinson or like a Dante Pettis into, wow, this guy like really pops. I mean, Juwan, frankly, has been this guy. Like, wow, this guy really is just coming out of nowhere and putting up numbers. But don't. Stop doing this. Because also we've seen what he can do with like really talented players. Ayuk at one time was, they spent a lot on him. He was really talented. Had like one of the most efficient seasons, an extremely productive season that we've seen in recent memory. And then obviously he had a falling out. And Deebo Samuel at his peak was one of the most unique and dynamic players we've seen. Christian McCaffrey, even coming to this team at the teetering edge of his prime, and now at this point, almost certainly past his prime.
Post-prime, for sure.
Clearly true, can still make so much out of high-end skill position players that I don't think there's, I hope there's no universe in which they go into this upcoming season saying, like, let's make something out of Ricky Pearsall. Let's make something out of Juwan. I bet you could, Kyle. I bet you could. Just draft a wide receiver anyways.
CMC is post-peak enough that we are now getting Jordan James hype early in the offseason. Rotoworld.com. Check it out. Wow. So, yeah, we're getting in. But Shanny, got to say, by the way, Shanny killed it on the NBC Super Bowl pregame. Very good analyst. And I hate when you see like a current player, Denny, or coach who's like so good on TV. Because, oh, man, this guy should just come to TV. But Kyle Shanahan should very much continue coaching.
Also, he cleans up well. I didn't even recognize him. I thought, oh, man, Kyle Shanahan, he shaved, he combed his hair, like took a shower. Like, he looked great. I've never seen him,
Adam points out, great suit. He killed it. Our guy was fire.
Sucks. He didn't look like someone who's so good at one thing, just carry that talent over, that innate talent over to another thing, and look dashing while he does it too. Miserable.
It's messed up. It's wrong.
He was charming too. Is like, I hate to say it, but the Seahawks, like,
and he said, I know you guys had me on here as an expert, but I just want you to know I didn't beat these guys this year.
That's right. That was really funny. Yeah. I know it's awful. We should have never done it.
No,
it's totally awful. No, Shanny was great. Shanny was one of the best. I gave him his flowers in my seasons in review article, which you can check out on Rotoworld. Check out Kyle's mock. It's mock 2.0 coming soon. Check out Zach Kruger's Fernando Mendoza article. It took off like wildfire.
People are talking about
apparently cottage industry of truthing number one overall quarterbacks, and he was right on Cam Ward. He's running it back on Fernando Mendoza. So for Zach, who's not on air, for Kyle, for Denny, I'm Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with you next week.